I woke up Monday to an email from Patreon. Patreon has suspended my account. They claim that my content is, quote, glorifying violence and that I might incite others to violence. To say I'm blindsided is an understatement. Patreon is the single largest source of income for what I do. So losing the ability to have my followers' support is actually a huge blow to my family. And I've been making content about the Ukraine conflict for over 6 months now on Patreon. So it's not clear what has changed now that content, that analysis is suddenly become a problem. If you've been on my Patreon, you know that I'm not glorifying war. I get a lot of criticism for all sorts of stuff, but one of the actual most vocal criticisms that I get is that I have too much empathy for the soldiers on both sides that find themselves fighting this conflict. And I myself am a combat veteran. I have been in firefights. I've hit IEDs. I've seen civilian and enemy wounded and KIA. So I understand the reality of combat. And there is nothing glorious about it. And I've made that clear in every video. The notion that someone who has experienced combat directly is overly glorifying it is like telling a cancer survivor that they're overly gloomy about the disease. It's galling and a little offensive. But the truth is that all of these platforms, YouTube and other big tech platforms, they are going to have to follow the desires of their major advertisers and investors. And Patreon has certainly been the worst to me, but YouTube hasn't been far behind. You've probably noticed that more and more of my YouTube content requires blurring and muting just to comply with their monetization policies, which are opaque at best. And oftentimes I use the exact same clips as, quote, major news sources like CBS, ABC, Voice of America, PBS, and The Sun. But when they use those clips, they're not required to blur or censor any of it. And often they present it with no context. But I'm a smaller creator, yet I am required to blur and mute and use all sorts of stupid euphemisms that make it harder for me to get my message across. You notice I won't say things like killed or wounded. I try to say WIA, KIA, because of, again, the arbitrary rules that YouTube has put in place for creators who aren't necessarily part of a major news outlet. Since October, my revenue from YouTube has been down about 50%, even though my views have been steady this entire time. My worry is that there is a media, corporate, and political consensus, at least in the United States, that the Ukraine conflict is viewed as passé. It's an electoral liability, and it doesn't get people outraged enough to generate lots of clicks. The only problem I have is that the Ukrainian people are still fighting for their survival as an independent country. And I feel like I have an obligation to take my expertise and bring my reporting and analysis of the war to an English-speaking audience. So I am going to do the thing that a lot of creators have done, and I'm going to be moving off of Patreon. I'm launching my own site. I literally built this in like 2 days, so it's a little bit rough around the edges, but it's combatvetnews.com. I'm going to link it in the description, and it's the exact same setup as Patreon right now, where you can see exclusive, uncensored analysis and combat footage breakdowns, same membership tiers, same benefits. Everything is just a little bit less expensive because obviously Patreon doesn't have to take a cut. But more than that, all my YouTube videos are on there for free. So you can just bookmark it and see the daily updates every day. Plus, my vision is in the coming weeks to add sections on military and Ukraine news, like written news reports, like what you'll get from Reuters or AP or military.com, and to make an independent site that I obviously cannot get kicked out of that covers this conflict in a way that these big outlets and major tech companies might not want to. But nonetheless, whether you guys want to join, the link is in the description. The Patreon, obviously, I'm going to keep it open, but I won't be posting new content there. I literally can't. But I encourage you to cancel your Patreon membership and come over to combatvetnews.com. One other note that I almost forgot. Every single day this week, I'm going to be dropping a new video in the members only section, right? I've got to make up for all the content I've lost on Patreon. So 7 days, 7 videos. It's going to be awesome. And the content is only going to grow and get better from here. So again, check that link in the description. Thank you guys so much for your support, and I'll see you on combatvetnews.com. I thank each and every one of you guys for your support. Really, you guys are the ones who enable me to do this, to bring my experience, my expertise on this conflict, and share it with you, and hopefully make you guys better informed citizens and voters and consumers of the news around this and every conflict. So thanks again, guys, and I will see you in the next video.